Okay, so when you start thinking about color, and before you grab your paint and start painting the background of your final project, I want you to look at these images here. So this is what we're looking at doing. We are going to be using our tints and our shades to create almost like an African safari background, where it's like that really neat sunset or it's a night sky. You could even have it where it's underwater, so if you feel like doing an underwater scene, you could do something similar to that. So what we'll be doing is you'll have your perspective and your proportion in your painting for when you start doing the other steps of planning. But for right now, looking at these images, so say if you used an orange here, you would get with the white like a yellowy tint kind of coming out of it, and then you'll slowly get to a darker reddish orange and blackish orange as you get going. So these are just to show you some transitions. We're going to stick with one color that you'll be doing tints and shades with, so you can get that really bright color. Imagine if this was a blue, you would do like the white first, the lighter blues, and then it goes all the way out until it gets into a dark, dark blue. And that would be a great evening one, which you can see with the elephants on the third picture on the top right here, where you would have that nice transition. Think about also if you want it to go from dark at the top and go all the way light down to the bottom before you add in where your layer of your silhouette for your perspective and proportion will be. So here are just some further examples if you don't want to stick with, these are actual photographs. If you don't want to stick with just the African theme, you can do your jaguars, you could do a bear, you could do your water, and all those different things. So these are just some other beautiful pictures, just showing you giraffes, trees, some of those beautiful trees with the elephants. As you can see in proportion, the elephants are not bigger than the tree itself, and you can tell which one would be an adult elephant and a young calf elephant. So also with this other one, with the eagle flying or the hawk, you can tell that that's a bird. It's smaller. It's not larger than the tree. It's a little bit further in the distance. So we're going to make sure that when we do our drawings, we are also, when we're planning, that we have something that is in the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, using the nice pretty shadows. So these are just some examples to get you thinking. This last one on the right here would show you red, and if you just use the color red, how that would work and look really nice too. So any of the colors work. The reds, the orange, or the blue. You could even do green if you prefer. Alright, so when we begin to paint today, and we're going to start off with our tints, make sure that you have in your head how you want to have your background in the colors. Do you want to have like a moon at the top or a lighter color? Do you want it to go from dark all the way down to light? Do you want the lightest part to be here, almost like a sunset that's in that certain color? Completely up to you. But the goal is that you are planning in your head to do your tints no more than the halfway line, because the halfway should be for our tints, and then the shades should be all the way down. So then that way you have the darkest black for your shadow on the bottom. Place this. Do you want your painting to be portrait style? If you're doing like a giraffe, you want to really focus on the giraffe being the length, or do you want to have it more where it's the landscape, so you have more of a broader picture and more details where maybe the tree and different things are more highlighted in this? So once you have that just thought through, you're going to go grab your paints, and like we said in the previous video, you're going to have more white because we're going to start with our tint. You're going to have more white, and then you'll have a little bit of your color. Okay, so your hue color, for this one I'm going to try out orange. And the goal with this, you're going to use one of the smaller brushes, because the larger brushes, even though it covers more space and it goes quicker, it gets a lot in the bristles. And for this, I want you to really get the understanding of how to mix and not have paint creeping up everywhere and so forth. So To begin, I'm going to start with just grabbing a little bit of my white. Now you don't need to grab and fill the whole brush, like I have it on one side. I'm painting with this one, and I usually paint going back and forth, so that way I really spread it out, okay? What I will do is I'm thinking of having down here, so I'm going to do, and I know you're not really going to see it, I'm going to start off with just a little bit of a start of a moon sort of a shape, okay? And then I'm going to dip just the corner of my palette, my brush in there, and I'm going to mix it in my white. You could even pull it to the side if you want. It's a very, very light orange. Okay, I'm going back and forth. Maybe I didn't grab enough on this one. I'll grab a little bit more. There we go. You can see it in the camera better now. Okay. I could see it, but I wanted you guys to see it. Alright, I don't want all this paint on my brush. So I squeeze it off a little bit like that. Good. So now, using this beautiful color, I'm going to put it next to what I had started. And you can see the transition is really stark. This is actually the white that I had put down. So, if I needed to, my brush already has that one orange on it. I might grab a little bit of white on the side here, and I made the lighter color. So maybe I'll put that lighter color to help with that transition a little bit better. There we go. So you can kind of see that. Perfect. I'll zoom in a little bit more. So I go from my white to the lighter orange to a little bit of a darker orange. These are my tints. So then I grab a small amount of orange back on my brush, and I go into that same darker orange color that I mixed, and this time I'm going to go all the way across. I'm going to take it all the way. I'll zoom back out. It's got this nice color about it. Okay, and then I'm going to go in for a little bit of a darker, and I'll do my next layer. If you notice that your brush feels like you're getting brush stroke line marks like that, all you need is a little bit of water. Okay, so I just dip my brush in really quick, and I could go back over it, and it moves it really nicely. So I'm going to grab another one, get a little darker. You could go really slowly with this and have a ton of different tints, or you can go a lot faster and you can go into getting it darker really quick and right away. So to get darker, you would be grabbing a lot more orange and working on that same spot. And I work my way up that way. I'm going to take a good chunk, and it's getting closer to this beginning color of our hue, our orange. Now I wanted to go over and just make a little bit more of a sunsetty mix here, right? I wanted to have this be stark and different and bright. And I'm going to put my next darker color here, because I'm starting a little bit lighter. And I'm going to work towards my dark orange. I'm just going to grab pure hue of my orange color now. Okay? And I'm going to put that nice, perfect orange at the top. So you can see I have my pure hue color working all the way down to the lightest tint and down to the white. What I'll do is then I will go to my shade, and I'll show you how to do shade next. But I will also show you another option if you start with the lightest color and you work your way out. So this is one example. Okay, so if I decided, and I'm using the same palette just to save space, I would definitely, if I wanted to move on to doing my shade and I had enough time to do the shade, I would put the black here. and I'll show you how to do the shade in the next video. But for this one, I wanted to show you with a different color how to go from the lightest and work your way all the way out. So from a good tint to a shade in a different way. Okay? So the goal is you always put down the white and you always end with the hue color. And then with the shade, you will then start with the hue color and end with the shade, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to have my paper be this direction, okay? And I'm going to move this screen up so you can see that a little bit better. There we go. Now, what I will do is I'm going to start with my white, and I'm going to do almost like a moon-like bit. So I'm going to start with a white circle on the paper here. I know you can't see it. And I'm going to take a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of blue, okay? And I'm going to mix it in this white part here. So I've got a nice, very light, I'm going to get a good chunk in here, very light blue, okay? And I'm going to paint around it. Get this light blue. So I probably went a little too quickly into the blue, but it's okay. Then, just like we've done before, you dip the corner and you mix into that whole amount that you have here, and it gets a shade darker. So then I will go around it and I paint the next layer. As you can see, it's a little bit darker, very subtle, and that's what you're going for when you're doing a tint. And then I do the next thing. I grab a little bit more and I do the same thing. So I'm going to speed this up and you can just see how the process looks for making the tint in this way.